Hello, my fellow Hearts of Iron players. If you're new and you're watching this, which you're probably not, this is a short tutorial on how to play Hearts of Iron 4. So, let's dive in. This over here is our political overview tab. Here we have our leader with his trait. Almost every single leader in Hearts of Iron 4 has a trait. Traits can give buffs and or debuffs depending on what is shown. Now, national spirits. They are actually to almost every single nation, I think. Some nations don't have them. But they can be got through the national focus. Now, the focus trees for nations can come in from DLCs and or from the base game. Now let's see. The German focus tree has its historical path where you were melted as the Rhineland and a non-historical path where you can go communist, where you can go monarchist and or democratic. Now every tree has an economic, naval, air, and ground focus tree. Well, focus part. This focus tree is actually one of the newers introduced in Gottsdammer Room. Now, let's go back. As I was talking, national spirits give buffs and or debuffs like Luftwaffe, which gives air manpower requirement plus 10%, and Deutsches Heer, which gives planning speed plus 25%. This is your political pie chart. Political pie charts are basically showing what country is political party is the most popular. If the political party is highlighted, that's the one that's in charge. Here are our laws of government. Now here are political advisors, which we can have 3 of. And political advisors are like national spirits, but they can be replaced. Like, let's say Walter Funk, he gives minus 10% consumer goods, but here is Franz Schelldet. He is the Reichsminister for Labor, and he gives minus 5% stability. Now, over here are our economy laws. Economy laws are basically on how your country's economy is. How many civilian factories you're giving to consumers, like civilians. A civ economy is giving almost all of your civilian factories to your consumers. Meanwhile, total mobilization and like war economy, you're barely giving any. Over here are your trade laws. This is how many of your resources you are trading out to the world. Closed economy, you give none of your resources out to anybody, and free trade is where you get a lot of buffs, but you give almost all of your resources out. Over here is your conscription law, and this is how many men and manpower you're getting. Like, let's say, limited conscription, you get 2.5% recruitable population. And over here in scraping the barrel, you get a lot of debuffs, but 25% recruitable population. Now over here in research and production, you have a theorist. These guys are who basically work on your doctrines. And we have grand battle plan doctrines, mobile warfare experts, blitzkrieg theorists. These guys are basically the ones that work for doctrines. Here are industrial concern. This is basically another economy little thing. Let's say Philip Holzman. They give infrastructure construction speed plus 10% and railway construction speed plus 10%. Meanwhile, let's see. Siemens gives electronics research speed plus 15%. Over here in our material designer, these are the guys who make our infantry equipment and artillery. You have like Rheinmetall, give artillery research speed, and Mauser, who give weapon and equipment research speed plus 15%. Over here are our aircraft designers, naval ship designers, and tank designers, which basically do the exact same thing. Over here in our military stat are our military high command. We can have 3 military high commanders, basically all ranging from Navy, Air Force, and in ground. And over here are our chiefs of Army, Air Force, and Navy. Chiefs of Army have either Army Offense, Defense, or Army Organization, Army Drill, or Old Guard, I think. They give what basically all say. Chief of Navy They have commerce rating, decisive battle, or naval maneuver, which commerce rating is for submarines, decisive battles for capital ships, and naval maneuver or for naval speed. Chief of Air Force, like let's say Kesselring, he's an air reformer. He gives air experience gain. Oh, I forgot to mention, every single chief of army give army XP. Any wherever they will go. Let's say we got a chief of navy, he will give navy XP periodically. Okay, so let's move on to the research tree. Here is where we research basically where we research everything. Over here is our infantry research tree. It's a little bit small because there's no DLC. These is support equipment. Support equipment is what basically supports the infantry, like machine guns and shit like that. These trucks are for what is what supply lives off basically. You make trucks, you can make either motorized infantry or get better supply. These support companies are what support your infantry even more. Like let's say I researched radio, I could get signal companies, and I can get field hospitals right now, which would give me less casualties during the war. These are trains, which also give better supply. Here is our tank tree, and research tree. Here we can research everything from light tanks, medium tanks, to Martyr 2s, and stuff like that. Here is our artillery, and basically everything like anti-air, artillery, and anti-tank research tree. Here we have everything from the 7.5 centimeter Pak 40 to the 8.8 centimeter Flak 41. Here is our naval research tree. This is where you research all of your ships and shit like that. And you can also get transports, which let you do naval invasions. Over here is your air tree. This is where you research airplanes like the Focke-Wulf 190 and the Bf 110. Over here is your engineering tree. This is electronic engineering, which will get you research speed, and if you keep going down, more research speed and cryptology. Here you get radio, which will give better stats for your infantry. Here you get better fortifications. Here are, kabooms, the nuclear bombs. Here is your industry research tree. This is basically how good your industry is. You research more in industry tree, better your industry is. Now, let's go over here in decisions. Decisions, you can basically choose what you want to do. Not much, but it's what you can do. You can cancel MIFO bills, because MIFO bills does stack up with consumer goods and shit like that. And over here you can do anti-democratic, ban communism, which will remove communism support to 0. And here's propaganda if you're at war. Now, if you're not at war, you can actually, if it's 25% world tension, you can start doing radio propaganda. Over here is the diplomacy thing. Here you can see your diplomacy with other countries. Now let's say we click on fascist countries, everybody likes me, because I'm fascist Germany. Now when we go to democratic countries, not many democratic countries like me. Here we can see all the major countries. You can see them. You can see all the countries that are in the Axis, Allies, and the Comintern, and stuff like that. You can also see the continents. Over here is our trade. Here is where we can trade resources, like, let's say I trade with the Soviet Union for some chromium. Well, actually, I want to trade the Dutch East Indies for some rubber. Over here is our construction. Here we construct everything from forts to anti-air to civilian factories to military factories. Now, you're wondering, why can I not build military factories and forts in here? It's a demilitarized zone. Demilitarized zones cannot have specific things like land forts, military factories, anti-air, but they can have air bases. But they also cannot have any experimental facilities. Now, let's say I wanted to build a military factory. It would take 15 civies. Let's say I wanted to build another. We have 2 civies. Now, when this one military factory finishes, we get an extra slot over here in the production tree. Now, production. This is what you make. All the equipment you make. Like, we make two. We make two Messerschmitt BF-109s a month. You know, we make 52 Carabiner 98Ks a single day. Here is our ships, which require their own special factory called a dockyard. Dockyards can only be built on the coast, and that is so. It's basically fucking common knowledge. They gotta be on the side of the coast. This is a synthetic refinery. They give oil, very good oil, and these fuel cells give fuel capacity. Let's go over here to recruit and deploy. This is where you can edit and recruit division and deploy divisions. So let's say I want to deploy an infantry division. Here we need 858 infantry equipment, 29 support equipment, and 11 total artillery. But here we can division designer see create an empty division. We can add a infantry battalion, but it's gonna cost us 5 army XP. And this scales. Every single one battalion here needs 5 army XP. Over here is our logistics. Here we can see basically all what we need. Here is our officer command. Here we can see who is our chief of army, who is our military high command, and who is our theorist. And also we can see our doctrine. Now currently Germany starts off with mobile warfare researched. The deeper you go down, the better buffs you get for tanks in mobile warfare. For superior firepower, you get buffs for artillery. Ground battle plan and mass assault, you get buffs for infantry. Over here in naval doctrine, you get in fleet and being, you get buffs for capital ships, trade intersection, you get for submarines and light cruise and heavies, and here you get buffs from carriers and naval bombers. Here is where I don't know myself, but I know battlefield support is for Lowest Air Support or CAS. Over here in strategic destruction, this is basically for strat bombing, I think, and over here is also somewhat for strat bombing. It's combined. Alright. Also, in the research tree, we have a new thing called experimental facilities. this is where we can assign people to start working on like military. We can make people assign on land warfare facilities. Like, let's say I wanted Edward Grote to work on a military engineering vehicle. It would take 205 days, and no, it would take a long time. So, what else can I show you? Alright, let's tag over to England. This would be much easier. So, while we're in England's tree, we can open our subjects. These are our puppets. Over here we have the autonomy tree. The lower the autonomy, the better for you, and the higher, the worse. So, let's say like Australia got up to free, they would no longer be our puppet. Let's say the British Raj would be annexed, we would annex the British Raj, but, we would not get any cores on it. What are core states? Core states are what your country is starting with. Later on, you can get more cores if you go down your folks tree, like Germany opposes Hitler and goes down the monarchist tree. They can demand back the Danzig corridor and get cores on Poznan, Gdansk, and Danzig, and even the Alsace-Lorraine. Oh god, over here, in the Navy. Let's assign, like, this man over here, James Foronis. We can do a couple things. We can do patrol, which I recommend for spotting aircraft, spotting ships. You can patrol the seas and scout for the enemy fleet. Over here in Strike Force, this is where your main part of the Navy are going to go find enemy ships if your scouts have found them and go strike them. Here is convoy raiding, which basically for the most part you should use for subs. You can go hunt convoys, which would forward supply for nations that are just coastal. Here we have convoy escort, which would protect more convoys. And here we have naval invasion support. Naval invasion support is support for naval invasions. Let's say I put these divisions together. We had our field marshal and our general. Field marshals can lead up to 5 or 7 divisions, 7 army groups. Let's say we have Bernard Montgomery, and as a commander, actually, that's generals, but we could get Richard Arcana. Now, Richard Arcana leads Army 1 with 12 divisions. How do we can add more? We click on unassigned divisions, shift click at that, go over here and press S, which will, I think, have it. And we go over here, let's say 2 divisions off, and now he leads 24. I think the maximum which a general can hold are 30 divisions. Now let's tag back to Germany and talk about Air Force. Alright, there's something I forgot to tell you about military. Let me real quickly do this. Good. So, these are front lines. You can, let's say, put them on Poland, and this is where your troops will go. Let's put it on to 5 speed, and I'll show you. You can see your troops slowly walking over to the front line. Now, if I would push into Poland, the front line would move further on, morphing around where I've pushed. This is to train, this is how fast your men will move. If we go here, carefully executing battle plan, our men will move slowly, but take less casualties. Over here, they will move aggressively and recklessly. Over here are flexible coalitions. The less it is, then the less men on the front line. Over here is our offensive line. If I were to go at war with Poland, I would click this to initiate a offensive. Now, if I had tanks, which I do, I would initiate a spearhead, which is for the most part for tanks only. This is a fallback line. Fallback lines are for the most part used like this to defend rivers, most commonly used for the Soviet Union with the Stalin Line. This is an area defense. Here you can defend the coast and protect from naval invasions. Here you can assign divisions to a front line, here you can remove divisions from a front line, and here you can edit a front line. And here you can delete front line in orders like that. Let's enter in here in the supply map. We zoom in, we click on a supply hub. Let's see here, motorization level. If we would click it twice, it would go up to motorization level 5, 3. But we would require more trucks. I'll pause real quick. Yeah, see, we are in a deficit of 52 trucks. That's not good. So, I think for the most part, that is basically it for today. So goodbye, and have a nice day.